Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody joining us today. I want to thank you so much for attending today's session where we are going to be covering the new features of Arcserve UDP version 6.5. My name is Mary Owen, and I'm going to be helping out our hosts today. They are John Benjamin, who is one of our sales engineers, and Christoph Bertrand, who is the VP of Product Marketing. So as we're going through the presentation, we definitely want to hear from you. So please use the question section of your interface to send us questions, and we will get to those at the end of the event. And we are also recording today's webcast. So in about an hour or two, we'll be sending out an email with a link to the recording so you can watch it again at your leisure. So with that out of the way, take it away, Christoph.
Thank you very much, Mary, and welcome everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here, and certainly we have quite a bit to talk about today with John. Our 6.5 release of UDP is full of features. We've organized the content for you today in 3 sections. The first section is going to cover some of the data availability capabilities we've added to our UDP architecture. Then we'll talk about cloud type of features, and specifically you'll see some great features around AWS that we're bringing to the table here with 6.5. Also, we'll talk about some very, very cool reporting and orchestration capabilities around disaster recovery. I'd like to thank all of you, our customers already of Arcserve UDP. It's as you know, the product has been in market for about 2.5 years, and it's been a very, very successful product. So thank you to all of you. And if you're considering UDP, I'll just say that what you'll see is a feature-rich capability or a product with many capabilities that go well beyond what others can do. In this presentation, though, we will only cover what's new in version 6.5. So if you don't have the full background on Arcserve UDP, there are other webcasts that we can point you to, or presentations as needed, as well as, of course, the arcserve.com website. I also invite you to take a look at our blog section on arcserve.com, where you'll find a number of interesting articles and thoughts about our technology, as well as the feature set that we bring to the table and industry trends. So let's start with the fortified data availability features in version 6.5. What I'll do is just cover here at a high level what these are, and then John Benjamin will join me and go through the details. So first of all, we're adding capabilities around hardware snapshots. As some of you may remember, we already support NetApp, or we supported NetApp with our 6.0 version, as well as Hyper-V for Nimble platforms. With this version, we're adding HP 3-bar and VMware on Nimble. So that means that you can leverage the storage subsystem, the storage array. You can leverage their snapshot capabilities. We integrate with those capabilities and essentially do the backup that way. It's a very traditional enterprise type of feature that we are deploying in UDP. And by the way, stay tuned, because as we release new updates or new versions, you'll see that we're going to cover more and more platforms. So this is, again, a very traditional enterprise way of doing a very fast backup. The benefit here is that you're leveraging the storage system. It allows to really reduce the pressure and the stress on the production servers and hypervisors, and essentially provides a very fast and very frequent backup capability. We're also introducing 365 support, starting with Exchange, but again, stay tuned. In the future, we'll have more components covered. And this is a great capability because it really allows you to go grab that a backup of your 365 Exchange environment in the cloud, and then either get a local copy for compliance purposes, for just good data stewardship purposes, or you can also move the data to a cloud environment, another cloud environment, as long as it supports our UDP RPS. So flexibility here, and more importantly, an expansion of the platforms we covered. We also support CIFS protection now. So essentially, it's the UNC Paths backup. in other terms. The net is this: it's compatible with any NAS device, and it's a very, very easy capability to leverage within the user interface of UDP. So something that, again, allows to now cover an even broader set of platforms in your environment with this capability. And we have a couple certifications, as usual, more than a couple, but I'll just mention Windows 2016 here, v6.5, and you can see some additional capabilities or certifications around UEK and Linux platforms. So this is essentially the high-level view of our new capabilities in data availability. I'd like to now turn this over to John for the details.
Thank you, Christophe, and thank each of you for taking time out of your day to speak with us. Here's just a visual representation of what Christophe articulated earlier. Our goal, obviously, is to really take the feedback we've gotten with our previous platform topology and support for cloud locations such as our Arcserve Cloud, support for Azure as well as AWS, and expand that to where we feel customers, based on feedback, are also looking to move, and that's obviously taking advantage of protecting their emails in the Office 365 cloud. Now, one of the things we've done here, and we continue to roll out different capabilities, this particular release does not cover the SharePoint portion of that right now. Again, we're focusing primarily on the email side of the house, but this does provide, again, a great way for customers now to really take care of backing up their environment. So administrators can protect individual items such as emails, calendar events, contacts, tasks, as well as notes, and so on. They can search for protected items and restore using a wide range of flexible recovery options. They can use filters the filter feature from an administrator perspective. They can opt to selectively back up only important items within a folder, and exclude others, such as syncing issues and reducing clutter. The feature also helps in the reduction of that backup window. So you can also then say, hey, I may have hundreds of mailboxes, or they may be large in size. You can be a lot more efficient now. And of course, one of the other benefits is being able to now have a local copy that you can, for disaster recovery purposes, use in case of a crisis to recover. We use a proxy method, which we put our Arcserve UDP agent on a proxy, and this allows us then to back up to our recovery point server in a very efficient manner. Now, slightly different than our previous version, in this particular edition, we do not directly do deduplication, but with capabilities that we built into this release as well, you back up to a non-deduplicated data store, as long as you configure that, replicate to another data store within the RPS, and then you can have the efficiency of deduplication. So, again, very scalable. We're really thrilled about the flexibility of the actual solution in itself. And customers can recover that to their original location or another folder owned by that particular individual. So requirements and expectations, of course, we're relying on them having the mapping feature in Exchange or web services or EWS connections can be enabled. Depending upon the connections, sometimes the first backup can take a little longer than usual, but I think once you get that first backup out of the way, you'll find out this will be a very efficient way of managing your total Exchange environment, be it on-premise, off-premise, or using Office 365 online Exchange. Another feature here that we've really thrilled about is the use of UNC Paths. We've had a lot of customers say that your software, the single user interface, the ability to have integrated replication, deduplication capabilities, automated virtual standby to recover a physical virtual node, huge. Windows, Linux, Unix, and the agentless approach. But we do have sometimes data in some of these remote areas, be it a UNC Path or SMB share, and we want to make sure we're protecting that as well. So we are also introducing that capability with this release. So you can now back up again to a non-deduplicated data store, but Within this release, we've created that replication between two data stores, so you can then replicate to another data store and deduplicate that data if so desired. But you can then get the economies of scale. Arcserve UDP is capable of protecting the CIF shares exported to Windows, as well as Linux and NAS devices. You can get we do a writable recovery point, so you can do file level backups done as well, and when it occurs, you can then have those in those particular snapshots. We can do infinite incrementals. However, the process is slightly different, as I articulated, than our patent pending I2 technologies. But we do that in a writable recovery point that we can still manage in an image-based fashion. So what is the value to you as an end user? It provides the same functionality and feature as preferred shares and preferred machines that we would find in our legacy product or our long-term flagship product, Arcserve Backup. It's a unified experience, so all the settings of the product behave as they would in an agent-based snapshot backup as you have with the traditional Arcserve unified data protection, and it can be host-based. You can leverage the deduplication data store from one data store to another. All right, you can copy the tape within UDP, so if you still have a desire to move that off-premise, either via our replication capabilities, or maybe you're in an industry that file level tape backup is still required, you can leverage the efficiency of our deduplication, our disk imaging speed and prowess, and still push those snapshots to tape. While, again, not neglecting and now having the ability to protect UNC Path through the proxies I indicated earlier. You can add multiple UNC Paths to the same plan. You can perform backups through the Windows proxy within the Arcserve UDP console when that agent is installed in the proxy. And only a simple non-compressible data stores will be done, but again, you can replicate between multiple data stores in this particular environment. So really happy about this addition. I've had a number of customers who are really happy about that. And the proxy can be configured in a Windows machine, or the RPS server itself within Arcserve UDP can also act as that proxy in Windows as long as 2008 or higher. When we look at the industry as a whole, we understand that there's economies of scale and benefits for making sure that customers can leverage the best of both industries, software and hardware. So with this release, we've also expanded our capabilities to do hardware snapshots. Now, as you remember, probably about a year ago, February, we introduced the ability to do hardware snapshots with NetApp. Later in the year, we introduced our ability to do some nimble capabilities. Now we have introduced the ability to do HP 3PAR and rounding out the nimble capabilities. So we allow now for generation of snapshots through the integration with NetApp, 3PAR, nimble. Just as I mentioned, you can do frequent high-performance backups in a very low-impact fashion for Windows servers and virtual environments for VMware as well as Hyper-V. The backups are stored on an RPS server, which again gives you the ability to do global as well as source-side deduplication in a very efficient manner. Consistent application backup, so you're getting that granular recovery capabilities. Extremely simple operations from the user interface, and how the agent and the hardware snapshots will work on VMware. So some prerequisites, of course, are going to be required. For each VMware environment, you need to identify the disks that the local storage is on, and as far as nimble and HP 3PAR is concerned, you can trigger the software snapshots right then from the UDP console, in a repeatable fashion. You can take those backups that are located on different storage, and then they are using our software snapshot capabilities, using in the HP 3PAR, leveraging the RMC, the remote management console, to handle those particular snapshots and create a very efficient way to leverage the hardware in the environment. And of course, you can then still take advantage of some of the capabilities of Arcserve Unified Data Protection with our replication capabilities, to take advantage of our disaster recovery capabilities, such as virtual standby. But the hardware snapshot takes the high I/O that might be in many software-only environments and leverages these very, very well-known hardware vendors. So very happy to be able to have these particular vendors as a part of our capabilities. For nimble hardware snapshots, it is also supported for VMware as well as Hyper-V, and the snapshots can be done either with Fiber Channel as well as iSCSI. So very happy to continue to expand our hardware footprint, so stay tuned for additional announcements in this particular area as well. As far as additional enhancements, there's so many things we've done to continue to make the product scalable, keep up with changes in versioning by our manufacturers like Microsoft. So you'll see that Windows Server 2016 is supported. We're making sure the different components within Arcserve Unified Data Protection, such as the Windows console, the recovery point server, the agent as well as proxy capabilities, Hyper-V, the opportunity now for the Edge browser from a user interface perspective. And for those of you who don't remember, this is a web-based user interface, or GUI. So it gives us the ability to do a lot of very creative things that thick clients do not allow. The ability now, of course, for SQL 2012, Service Pack 3, SQL 2014, Service Pack 2, and the SQL 2016. Of course, there are a number of other areas here, such as v6.5, encryption, and of course the latest Red Hat CentOS capability. So more here on Oracle and the different versioning, but these are just capabilities that are around the now. Now, to get more information about what we support from a compatibility perspective, you can always go to arcserve.com/support, look at our software compatibility matrix or our hardware certified device list, and then look at different things here that will be able to give you confirmation as far as migrating and updating your specific environment. All right. At this time, I want to turn it back over to Christoph.
Thank you very much, John. And let's talk a little bit about some of the features that we're bringing to the table in this version. So I'll point your attention to the bottom of the slide. And really what we've done with 6.5 is the ability to leverage AWS as a remote disaster recovery site. And I want to take a little bit of time just to remind you of the various capabilities we have with Amazon environments. There's, of course, EC2, and there's S3. By the way, stay tuned for a blog on this topic. I will post something this week to recap what we do so you can have that reference point. We'll also have a white paper for you in the next few days. So the one thing that's very interesting about this release is you can now take a UDP recovery point and you can copy that recovery point to the Amazon cloud. If you send it to S3, essentially it's going to be mostly for long-term retention. That's a great way to actually archive, if you will, the whole environment in many ways. And it could be seen as a long-term storage option to replace a tape environment, for example. So again, there are many benefits to using tape, but if you have a relationship with Amazon, you have S3, and it makes sense for you, what a great way to send a monthly recovery point to S3 at a cost point that will be, from a storage standpoint, certainly better than maybe using an EC2. Different price points, different uses. So the benefit of this, of course, you can recall that recovery points as needed and then rebuild whatever system, recovery the system from that point into your environment. The other thing we do, and we've done that from the beginning, we've always been able to run the recovery point server with the compute layer in EC2. So you could literally have your RPS in EC2 replicating the updates all the time. And of course, it's a great platform because of our deduplication. The storage consumption is going to be much less than other vendors. So right there was an economic advantage to the technology. But you still had to run the compute layer. Well, now you don't have to do that. You can leverage essentially the same type of capabilities by using recovery points and spinning through a virtual standby or an instant virtual machine, a virtual machine that will only be used when you spin it up. So the benefit is that you don't need the compute layer anymore. You can literally protect your environment to EC2 without the actual compute layer if that's what you decide to do. You can also protect those EC2 instances locally or even copy recovery points from EC2 to S3. So there are lots of permutations, lots of possibilities here. Remember that previously we could only copy files and folders. Now you can copy the whole recovery point. And as I explained, the virtual standby capability is really, really exciting because that gives you literally that disaster recovery as a service RPO and RTO profile that you want to hit from a service level agreement perspective. Enough said. John, please take us through the details.
Thank you, Christophe. So as we look at the copy recovery points, and I think one of the key things I want to re-emphasize is when we had our previous releases in version 5 and version 6, we has had that ability to, as Christophe indicated, back up files and folders. So you had a snapshot, and then we were able then to go inside that particular snapshot and take out critical files, and maybe your my folders, my documents, or other particular items that you wanted to copy to the cloud. This gives us now that a more robust disaster recovery perspective from a complete recovery point perspective. When you look at the benefits from a value perspective, again, you're copying those recovery points from a DR perspective. You can store full recovery points to the Amazon cloud for optimal cost and efficiency. We have customers now who are looking at this as an alternative to tape. Some are using it in conjunction with tape. It helps customers to be able to browse, download, upload recovery points to and from the Amazon cloud. So a couple of capabilities. So if we're using the Arcserve UDP recovery point, copy recovery point capability, it now enables you to take those recovery points we indicated, copy into a cloud share, local share, or shared folder. You can now do it provides the ability to do a scheduling, which is part of the real delight in this particular capability, is that you can automate the copying of these particular in a proactive fashion for daily, weekly, as well as monthly backup sessions to the cloud, and again, to a cloud location, local, or shared folder. This also provides the ability to upload and download those recovery points from those cloud locations from the node view within Arcserve UDP. So from a download perspective, download recovery point, Arcserve UDP enables you to select the appropriate download recovery points from the cloud to a local shared folder or a network share, so that could be a distant location. You can upload that recovery point to that cloud, so Arcserve is going to allow you to upload that particular recovery point from a backup point in time destination, such as an RPS recovery backup, or a data store, or a local or remote share to the Arcserve cloud, or pardon me, Amazon cloud, Amazon cloud. And then, of course, you can do the copy recovery point to a local disk or network. So this gives you great flexibility to enable you to then run that copy recovery point job on demand. You can upload or download those recovery points to that cloud or shared folder. So what are some of the things you have to be cognizant of from a prerequisite perspective? Of course, you need to have a backup task selected. You have it be for an agent for Windows. You can do this for UNC Paths files. You can do a host-based agentless backup. You can even do the Office 365 Exchange online to this location, as I think Christophe articulated earlier. From a backup scheduling perspective, we talked about that already. You can do daily, weekly, monthly. You can do a custom schedule. Right now, that process, custom schedule, is not supported in this particular event process, but those daily, weekly, monthlies, I think, will suffice for most customers. The copy recovery point source can be imported from a backup schedule. You can do a start time as well as end time. So again, very creative ways of doing this. And we do also, I want to point this out, through a number of these features, also have some videos that will be available for many folks to actually access and take a look at your leisure. So the virtual standby capabilities that we're also introducing here, it really is an extension of the disaster recovery capabilities. And one of the things that Christoph and I and the team here at Arcserve want to always be cognizant of and share with our end users, it's really all about the recovery. We can do great things and methods of backing it up, but we want to make sure that in case of a crisis, you have the ability to recover. So this particular virtual standby capability in Instant VM to AWS and EC2 will cover, one is focused on the Windows side and one is focused on the Linux side. So it's a cost-effective business continuity and disaster recovery capability within Arcserve UDP, focusing on AWS EC2. You can easily shift from an on-premise backup, and again, we focus on hybrid approaches because we feel that gives you the best type of recovery. Quick local first, but if you can't do a local recovery, then you can rely on either a distant on-premise location and a disaster recovery site, MSP site, or the cloud. So, it gives you now the ability to convert those recovery points to an Amazon EC2 hypervisor format. So for Windows, we use the virtual standby, we call it VSB, which is basically creating a virtual clone exclusively. It provides higher performance, fast virtual machine, and they're powered on, and it requires, of course, additional storage. The Linux version uses our instant virtual machine, or IVM, exclusively. There's no additional storage required, where, of course, when you're doing a virtual standby, we're doing a clone, so you need similar storage on both the source and destination. But for the instant virtual machine, there's no additional storage required. At the time the virtual machine is powered on, with the remote recovery point, you can take advantage of the optimized backup capabilities in fulls, incrementals, and they can be deduplicated or not. And it does require an additional EC2 compute resource on the AWS side. So taking a look at this from a diagram perspective, because sometimes the visual aspect of things really can solidify this. This is the virtual standby, which again is the Windows-focused approach. And we're showing here how you'd have to create a virtual standby plan within Arcserve Unified Data Protection within the UDP console. And this supports a conversion of those recovery points, again, to a virtual machine format in AWS EC2 with the help of the snapshots that we create on your data store. This backup environment gives you the highest availability capabilities, again, that hybrid on-premise, off-premise, to a public cloud offering that's well-known, well-respected, and it helps really shift the backup environments from that strictly on-premise to that hybrid approach. We can use virtual standby to protect a Windows recovery point server on-premise. However, that will generate, of course, there will be some compute in there, but you get the efficiency of a ability to stand up a recovery point, the deduplication capabilities, and efficiency. So again, make sure you are weighing those particular advanced costs. There must be, again, a Windows server in this environment. Oops, I think I went ahead too fast. And this is the virtual standby version, just in case I went too quickly. Again, this is the virtual standby edition for Windows that I was articulating earlier. And then for the instant virtual machine, which is the Linux version, that's when we are focusing primarily on the instant virtual machine capability that I talked about earlier. We can use that to protect Linux environments, as well as our recovery point server. However, this will generate, again, some cost, but you don't need the extra storage in advance in this particular case. So a very efficient way. Now we are looking at the two, I guess, most prolific operating systems, Windows and Linux. We found that this would probably be the best way to move forward for customers. But again, you can see here in the diagram on the left-hand side, we have our virtual servers. It can be virtual or physical. The little checker box there showing our deduplication capabilities that can be done both locally, source side, and globally, and then we're replicating that data to the cloud. But with Instant Virtual Machine, we would identify one of those nodes on premise. You would then provision that in the Amazon Cloud, and then stand up that particular node using our Instant Virtual Machine in the AWS Cloud for Linux machines. All right. So, Christoph, I want to turn it back over to you. for a little bit more.
Thank you, John. So yeah, let's talk about some of the disaster recovery orchestration capabilities as well as the reporting. And John, if you don't mind switching us to, oops,
yeah,
to the next slide. Ooh, that's not the right one.
All right, let's see what happened here. What happened there?
You have the wrong PowerPoint.
Oh boy, look at that. One moment, folks. There we go.
And perfect. All right, let's take a look. All right, so some of the expanded capabilities really focus on what we call assured recovery. So assured recovery is really the ability for you to test a disaster recovery plan on the ability to recover specific nodes or servers or multiple nodes and systems without interrupting production. So it's a capability that we've had in our high availability module for quite a bit of time, and we've literally ported it into UDP. And what it does, it really allows you to verify the health of the recovery points that you've taken, and it does that by essentially automating or orchestrating the testing of the recovery. So it's going to measure that for you, it's going to automate it, it's going to do it, it's going to measure it for you, and it's going to give you a sense of what your status is in terms of the ability to recover. Now, combine that with some of the new reports we've just introduced, which are very exciting reports from my perspective. This is really what this is all about. We have the recovery time objective and recovery point objective reports. So obviously the objectives you provide, the actual we measure. So what we'll be able to give you with 6.5 as you run these reports is a very, very good sense of, and with a lot of drill down capabilities, a lot of granularity, a very good sense of where you stand. If you have an RPO of X number of minutes for, let's say, an Exchange server, for example, then we can go measure the ability to the last recovery point based on that and see how far behind you are. If you have a certain amount of time that you allow yourself for recovery of such a server, let's go figure out how much time it actually takes based on that objective. And therefore, what it gives you is the ability to have a business conversation, or at least a data exposure conversation with anyone in your business, or if you're one of our partners selling to an end user, have the ability to educate these users on where they stand. The reason why that's important is there is, as you know, quite a bit of a wave of attack from ransomware. These people will want your money for criminal reasons, will encrypt your environment, and it turns out that obviously backup and recovery is one of the best ways to get back on your feet. Of course, you have to do a bunch of other things, and we have great webcasts about that. But it's made it even more critical to communicate where you're at with RPOs and RTOs. We found that to be a trigger that is getting a lot of attention these days. So regardless of just what the problem may be, it's very important for any IT environment and any business to know where they stand. So you'll see some of that. And then we have a bunch of other operational efficiencies, sort of like under the hood improvements that we've added to the environment and to the capabilities of UDP to really help, if you use it every day, to really help with the management of the underpinnings of the solution. So I will turn it over to John for the orchestration and SLA piece.
All right. So can you see the screen here, folks? All right. Make sure.
Yep. Hasn't switched yet.
All right. It says. All right. So we're going to talk about the assured recovery capabilities. So as you look at assured recovery, as was indicated, can you see it now?
I'm afraid not, John. It seems to be stuck.
All right. It says it's paused.
Well, you need to unpause it. Yeah.
Yes. So let me see if I can do that. I tried that a moment ago. Let's try it again. So let me go back here.
I think you're back. You are back. Yeah, you're back. You're back online. That's good.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Apologize. This is live TV, folks. So Can you see it again?
Very good. Good to go.
Excellent. So assured recovery is indicated. One of the things we've done here is leverage the strength and prowess that we had with our Arcserve replication and high availability product. We have found in talking to many end users and partners that data protection, again, critical. They may have different levels of protection, but one of the things that many of them have not been able to do is validate the recovery of their environment by doing regular tests. Now, some of you may be doing regular tests, and kudos to you. You should be doing that with a regular basis. But now this gives us the ability to really, with this assured recovery test, the recoverability allows you to really look at the health and well-being of your environment. You can do this in an automated fashion to validate the integrity of those recovery points, and this can be done for Windows as well as Linux environments. They're tested on a scheduled basis, and again, this particular process gives you greater confidence. You would set up you do your normal setup, you do your backup, your initial full or incrementals, and then you create an assured recovery task, and then you basically schedule a time of day that you want this particular test to occur. All right. As indicated here, there are two methods in which we can do that. We can do that in the instant virtual machine method, which again creates an instant virtual machine using the information provided on the original task, and the option of running a validation script inside after that particular environment is booted up, or creating an instant virtual disk check. This process it gives you the data integrity of the systems, but you can do this by using a recovery point and mounting it, and then running a check disk. But the other version, the virtual machine variant, creates a bootable version and gives you, again, the confirmation that would actually come online and runs a validation of that particular process. So again, very happy with that process, and we're really thrilled with the capabilities. Here, the assured recovery test is just showing you kind of from a diagram perspective how that would look. We talked about the two methods, but the assured recovery capability now extends the validation of recovery. Again, we talked about it earlier, that's all about the recovery. So now within UDP, from a backup task, you can schedule the recovery of or testing of these recovery things, and then provide better SLA confirmation to the business side of the organization. And very often, those are the sides that really want to talk about as far as growth and capabilities and what they can do. Now as an IT organization, you can really confirm what is available for that organization. Here are some of the additional reporting. Of course, we want to be able to take those disaster recovery tests, but what's also important is be able to show in a kind of a report format what those service level agreements or SLA reports for an RTO perspective and RPO perspective would look like. So the benefits, it really measures and demonstrates the disaster recovery capabilities with an actual recovery time versus what might be the recovery time actual, or RTA. So you may schedule it and say, hey, I want to have a 4-hour SLA in this particular case. After testing it, you realize, well, it's 6 hours. Then you can go and identify what it is perhaps that's impacting that ability and modify the test. So the new service level agreement reports introduces in this particular release multiple recovery point objective and recovery time objective reports. The RPO, or recovery point objective report, displays total number of recovery points of the nodes within the available recovery backups that you've done in a specified time. So you can specify within the last week, last 30 days. In this case, we're showing it in a bar chart. You can categorize them by the age of the last recovery point, like 15 minutes, the previous day, and so on. So very, very compelling. You can even do it even distributed by month. You can even further drill down into the node level to look for status of those particular reports. The recovery time objective report within UDP allows you again to be a little bit more circumspect now, looking from a compliance perspective that really shows the comparison of the recovery time that you have attended versus the actual recovery time, or RTA as we call it, for the values that the customer expects to be executed upon. So again, you can really do this by job within the file system. You do the bare metal recovery perspective, instant virtual machine capability. You can look at our assured recovery capability confidently. Now within this process, and you can drill down even further at the node level for status as far as in filtering by RTO, if that particular RTO is not met in the actual test. So very good reporting. It actually rounds out from a dashboard perspective some of the capabilities that we were able to do in the past. All right. So other enhancements along the way as a part of this, again, we've automated, again, just rounding out our virtual machine capabilities, our virtual protection. Auto discovery, we've added that capability, so when customers in the different businesses add virtual machines, they can be auto discovered. The UDP plan process can do that now. You can do direct file level recovery from an agentless backup. That capability has been added. I talked about the replication from the same RPS with 2 different data stores. So if you're using our Exchange protection online within Office 365 or UNC Paths, they back up to a non-deduplicated data store, but you can create a scenario where now they replicate to a deduplicated data store and generate for yourselves the benefits of our strong source side and global deduplication capabilities. Single sign-in for those of you who just who may have larger environments and don't want to have to keep logging into different nodes or different environments. You can use your Windows authentication now to sign on. You can pause a single node. We've been able to do plans, pause an existing plan, but maybe there's a particular node you want to do maintenance on and you don't want to stop the other servers as a part of that backup. You can just pause that one now and that will allow you to do the appropriate maintenance. Of course, we've done things that allow customers to do a little bit more online now from a licensing perspective, introducing our licensing and entitlement portal, which gives the customer the ability to sign on and activate and retrieve licenses on their own. There's some other benefits there as well. The ability to do additional languages, we continue to expand that capability as far as those that are Latin-based. Sys-tray access to the monitoring for the console capabilities now. We can get right to the console from the sys-tray as far as disk reclamation logs, etc., and better backwards compatibility with other versions. Okay, from a licensing perspective, this is just showing you how, with our very, I think, forward-thinking editions perspective, Arcserve Unified Data Protection Editions, the standard, which is primarily file server focused. You can see the Advanced Edition, which introduces the ability to have Exchange as well as SQL protection. That's where you see most of the features coming into bear. You will get the benefit of the UNC Paths protection with the Standard Edition. You'll also, if you have a per terabyte edition of any of these models, licensing models, have the benefit of the Office 365 capability. So if you have a per terabyte model, Standard, Advanced, Premium, Premium Plus, you will have the introduction of the Office 365 capabilities for the online exchange protection. As you go further down, you'll see some of the other capabilities that are relegated to the Premium and Premium Plus, such as hardware snapshot capabilities, the assured recovery capabilities, and so on. And of course, many of these can also be leveraged with our appliance as well. But so, again, Arcserve software, Arcserve appliance, and Arcserve cloud are also available for you to leverage. Okay, I want to turn it over to Christoph as he closes with a summary.
Thank you very much, John. So quite a bit, as you can see, in 6.5. What's really fun to see after 2.5 years with this product, and again, we launched it in May of 2014. Is as we add capabilities, they sort of demultiply and leverage the existing ones. And as you can see, we have a very complete solution here, very unified. You don't need to go into multiple screens and multiple interfaces. Deduplication has been very successful. Adding all of these new platforms and capabilities allows us to now cover an even broader scope. And we're also very happy with the work we're doing around cloud. I know there are a number of questions that have come in, so I'll cover some of those in a minute with John's help. Also, finally, again, at the end of the day, I think you really need to think about why you're doing this for, and you're doing it because you want to recover. So the ability to do disaster recovery in many different ways is very important, whether it's on-premise, leveraging Amazon, and also having the ability to measure and to manage with objective reports and the ability to test. I think, you know, we're well past the world of backup. We're absolutely 100% now in the world of recovery, and this is really what matters. So you'll see us, you know, investing in those type of capabilities moving forward, as it's very critical to our customers, and we thank you for your input. I know a lot of you give us input on features they need, and we certainly are listening and very interested in moving the product forward with your input. So with this in mind, I'd like to take a look at some of the questions we have received. I know there were quite a few, and I will take probably 5 or 6 questions to keep us on time here.
Christoph, one thing I want to mention on the licensing aspect also, if they have per socket, there's a per mailbox charge. So some people may be asking from a licensing perspective if they have a per socket license or per server OS. So I just want to make sure that I did mention that as well. So that was a question from a licensing perspective that has come up a number of times. I just wanted to interject that here before we take any further questions. Thanks so much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, John. And by the way, for all of you asking questions, I know I won't get to all of them because we really have a lot, but what we'll do is we'll do a follow-up individually. So we'll make sure we get you the answer to your question. So question around how do you protect, that just came in. That's a very interesting one. Actually, it's a thread, a few of them around the same theme. So I've just going to try to group a couple here. So how do you protect the data store in UDP? So a couple of ways you can do that. Obviously, by virtue of replicating to a secondary site, which gives you disaster recovery, well, you have protected your data store that way because you have a copy of it on another site. You can also just, again, replicate locally, as we support now, the ability to copy to another data store on the same server. And finally, there's also what we call the Jumpstart capability. Jumpstart allows you to copy the data store on, say, a portable device, portable NAS device, and typically you do that for 2 main reasons. The first reason why you'll do this is you want to go out and seed a secondary site. So say you have a data store that has grown to a few terabytes, you're backing up a bunch of systems, you have a number of recovery points, quite a bit of history there. You can just copy that to a local site, take it physically to a secondary site, upload essentially that data store to your secondary recovery point server, and then you connect the servers with a sync. It's going to resync, essentially. It's what I would call the offline resync. We call it also Jumpstart, and that gives you the ability to get that second site going. So really it's a combination of factors here because of the built-in replication and the built-in dedupe. By virtue of having a copy somewhere else, that's an active replicated data store, you have protection. You can also keep Jumpstart copies offline for a number of purposes. One of them is just to have an offline copy in case of you know, a massive issue with the site, where you would just be able to totally restore the UDP server at a point in time. Many other ways to do that. So what else? Let me see. There was a question around replacing a tape library that is used today as offsite storage. So one option you have here with UDP is obviously you can go disk to disk. So maybe you have if you have a service provider you work with or a partner you can work with where you can actually go replicate your data to that second site, and that essentially gives you your offsite backup that way, with of course the ability, depending on the service provider, whether it's yourself or a service provider, the ability to also recover from that secondary site. It gives you disaster recovery. You can also do as I just explained with the AWS capabilities we've just introduced, a recovery point copy to S3, for example, which is a cheaper storage layer in Amazon, that essentially gives you for lack of a better term, and really a tape replacement, especially if you do a monthly or maybe weekly, depending, of course, the storage capacity and costs associated with that. So that's another option you have as well. Some questions around whether these capabilities, cloud capabilities, are also available in Azure, and I will say on this one, stay tuned. We will certainly have more capabilities or similar capabilities in other public cloud environments. Typically what you see us do is we release on one platform, and then with an update later or next version, we match with other platforms. We do that for hypervisors, we do that for hardware snapshots, and here in the case of public cloud, you can expect a similar pattern. So stay tuned. We have capabilities today. We support Azure file folder copy. We support a number of capabilities there, but for the more advanced ones, such as what we have in Amazon, you'll have to wait just a little bit, but certainly it is on our radar. John, maybe I should give you a couple of questions here. Let me see. Let me see to find one here. Oh, okay. There was a question around if you copy a recovery point to S3 from an on-premise RPS, is it compressed or deduplicated, or does it expand it? So that's the question, John.
So you have the opportunity, thank you for that question, you have the opportunity if you're doing that recovery point, again, since we're doing it on the source side, you can do it either way. If we're replicating it to an RPS in the cloud, then you can have it either deduplicated or not. So that's an option that you can set up initially. Obviously more efficient to do it in a deduplicated fashion, so you're using the storage as you mentioned before, Christoph.
Okay. Can I have multiple copy recovery points, one to AWS and one to my off-site RPS, which is a second office in this case?
Absolutely. You can actually have different replication scenarios created to different destinations, one of the beauties of that. And also you can actually have different retention periods. So let's say you wanted to have a 60-day retention period on-premise, you wanted to have 90 days at AWS and something longer at another location. You can create that within the plan creation process when you're doing your replication and backup process.
Perfect. And there is another question that I think is very interesting. Can you virtual standby an Hyper-V server to Amazon EC2, or does it have to be a physical server?
So on the on-premise, I think on-premise, you can start off on-premise with either a virtual or physical server on-premise to that EC2 instance that we talked about for AWS.
Perfect.
I think
yeah. So
you can do physical or virtual. Yeah, Windows only for the AWS to Amazon, though. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Let me see. Okay. Does RPS on EC2 allow replication of specific recovery points, or are we still replacing the entire data store?
No, so when we're using the RPS recovery point server technology, that is basically the engine that's doing the replication. So whatever you have in your data store, you can select what you want to replicate. Within a data store, you can have some data that's being replicated and others that is not. You determine what you want to have replicated from on-premise to that data store in the Amazon AWS EC2 cloud.
Yeah, so I think the question is, do you replicate the whole thing, or is it just the recovery points? And really what we're doing is recovery points.
The recovery points is the answer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. Let's see if we can take a couple more questions. So there was a question around data encryption capability. Has anything been added or changed? I don't believe anything has changed at this point.
No, strong. And still, we can do replication at rest or in flight. So again, just to add added security. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And I think and there was a question around upgrading. Which I think will be the last question we can take in the time we have here. A question about whether a new license will be is necessary to go from version 6.0, I think it's update 3, to 6.5. What's sort of the licensing requirement?
So because we're adding different capabilities, there are a couple of ways you can handle this. If you're under maintenance, which we hope you are, take advantage of our award-winning technical support as well as the upgrade protection, then you would just be able to do a free of charge upgrade to the next version. So if you happen to have, which most customers are in maintenance, I guess if you have version 6. So other than that, you have, of course, your upgrade paths. So there are many ways you can do that, but to take advantage of the 6.5 capabilities, you will have to upgrade or migrate to version 6.5 from version 6 Service Pack 3.
Thank you, John. And the final question that I will cover, there was a question around hardware snapshots, NetApp, and about the MD series from Dell, which are made by NetApp, and whether they're supported. There's a model number here, MD3820i, which I don't know what this one is. I have to say there is a compatibility list on our support section on arcserve.com where we identify the supported hardware, whether it's type libraries or other, and all of the OS and OS versions and application versions, etc. So this is where I would point you to, Phil. I think if it's running, what I know we support from a snapshot standpoint will have to be the NetApp operating system, essentially. So if it's running that same OS, we support it. If it's just a hardware and it's a different OS, NAS OS, we can probably we probably won't have Snapshot unless we support it officially, like we do for 3PAR and Nimble. However, you still have the ability through the newly introduced CIFS capability to back up data that would be on the NAS system through CIFS. Is that a good answer, John? Did I answer this one right?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that there's a certified device list for the hardware, and our software compatibility list is for the software. So they're two different resources, but you're accurate with that resource. Just go to arcserve.com/support, and then you can look for either the software compatibility list and/or then the certified device list for the hardware.
Thank you, John. Mary, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. So I want to thank John and Christoph for sharing all of that information and for answering as many questions as they could. Later this afternoon, as I mentioned, I'll be sending out a recording of this presentation, so keep an eye out for that. If you have any additional questions, please go to www.arcserve.com. You can download a trial there, you can start a chat with our experts, or you can find our phone number to give us a call. So I want to thank again all of you for attending, and have a great rest of your day.